Welcome to the Barbell Strikes Back. I'm James McDermott, joined by Miguel Porter. Miguel, how are you doing?
Good. It's been a busy 4th of July weekend.
Yeah. 3-day, 4-day weekend. Very nice weather, so we can't complain too much about
Right.
that. It was weird not being in Barbell Club, though, on Friday. When it's at 8 o'clock came, I looked at the clock. It said 8:04, and I'm like, we'd be leaving right now. This
Mm.
is weird, you know? What do I do with myself? Did you even notice, or is it just me?
I mean, I did not notice. I was out of town, so
Oh, okay.
definitely different. But yeah, I mean, if I was just home, then for sure. But yeah, I think being out of town helped.
Yeah, probably just a change of scenery. Where'd you go?
I was in Rhode Island on Thursday and Friday.
Oh, nice. Just
Yeah.
visiting friends, family.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. Apparently, they have one of the oldest running 4th of July parades
Oh,
in Bristol, Rhode Island. So that was cool.
and you got to go to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool. It's
Yeah.
nice when you you get to be a part of like some long-standing tradition,
Right.
and you're like, well, check that off the list. Didn't even know it was on the list, but now it's
Yeah.
off.
Exactly.
When it's one of the oldest ones in the country. What did they have any like I'm sure there were like stands everywhere with food, fireworks. Like did they do it up real big, or is it just
So
parade?
like the parade itself was during the day. I think this time I was there for St. Patrick's Day as well. I think this time the parade kind of went through more like neighborhoods.
Mhm.
So I don't think that there were really many things like posted up, but they had like the guys walking around with the carts for like the little toys for kids and like balloons and stuff like that kind of going through.
Nice.
Um, But yeah, it was a pretty regular parade. I guess it long standing, but not like too theatric.
Yeah. I wonder from time to time, especially now with the CrossFit Games coming up to Albany, and I've been researching food trucks and stuff like that. Like the little cart, a little stand with like food or drinks or like something like that. I don't know. There's like a romanticized aspect of it in my head. I'm like, well, wouldn't that be like a cool job or like a
Mhm.
cool way to live your life? Like, all right, maybe you do a lot of prep during the week, or you show up like downtown for people's lunch breaks, and then on the weekend you get to go to a different event every weekend. Like you're at a concert one time, you're at a wedding another time, you're at like someone's 20-year reunion, and you're serving out your food or whatever it is your craft is. I don't know. There's like a thing that draws me to it for some reason.
Yeah, I'm sure it's like every job, even if it's like cooking is your passion. I think at a certain point it probably becomes like you have to get through this event.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like you're saying, I mean, there's so much prep and everything that goes into it, and like there's certain things that like maybe your stand is known for, so like people are excited for. But
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen like street vendors try to do like crazy tricks while they're doing everything, and like people aren't even paying attention, and like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like the
but
one where they take the ice cream from the kid and he
right,
flips it and he does it again and the kid gets frustrated and he puts it from behind his ear.
yeah,
Like and that's another thing. Like when I've seen those videos, I'm like, I don't know if I could ever do that. Like I'm
yeah,
sure about how do you practice that? Like I'm sure just at your cart you're flipping it, but then eventually at some point you need another person to and like anticipate that they're not gonna grab over here when you're going.
right,
I wonder what kind of practice goes into that kind of a skill.
yeah,
And then to be in the moment to do that person after person. Like
yeah,
because even with coaching a CrossFit class or a weightlifting class, it takes a little bit out of you. You're putting so much of your energy into it for an hour. And then afterwards you feel a little fatigued, a little
yeah.
tired, at least mentally, if not physically. How do you feel after classes, after like just going hard on coaching?
It depends. Some days, I mean, it feels like, especially if it goes well, it feels like you're getting energy back, but at the same time, like you are expending it.
Yeah.
Um, so there are times where you're like, maybe I could do something like low maintenance, but especially I don't know how many classes I would be able to do back to back.
Yeah.
Maybe I would need like different dynamics of people for each one. But I mean, the class structure as well kind of allows for like a build and a little bit of a lull towards the end and for a cool down, and maybe you can use those to kind of get yourself back up for peak. But yeah.
Yeah, it definitely changes workout to workout. All right, the workout's going to be a 10K run. You're going to do a lot up front. You're going to, be high energy. You're trying to excite them about going on a 10K run, practice some running technique things, and then you send them off. And some coaches might stay back at home base, especially if you have people that are just running around, the gym or something,
Yeah.
or they're biking and whatnot. Or you might get on your bike or in your car and go out into the world. And, you got to make sure that you don't break the law, get in an accident yourself or anything like that, and then try to support them that way. But that's certainly like a different type of day than, let's say, a day, even like today that you had in class, 4 rounds for time, 25 med ball clean, 600-meter run. Well, there's a lot going on in that med ball clean, like that you could spend the first half of class just, if you really wanted to. I don't think you should, but just high energy coaching, very involved coaching. They're in a little circle, they're in the lines. You're doing the deadlifts, you're queuing, you're doing the 2-1-2 method. Just so much going on into it, and then you've got to coach that movement during the Metcon. Like especially since they're coming and going, you only have this one movement to focus on, and then they go off on the run, and then you're just encouraging them there. Unless you did touch upon running technique in it. Yeah. How did that go for you? And why'd you pick that specifically?
So in kind of discussing a new focus for July, I guess as I was closing off June's, I had some work with the med ball in the workout last week, and I had med ball thrusters, and I kind of quickly went over the med ball clean to get into a med ball thruster, and essentially I didn't like what I saw overall, just in like the movement. And there were pieces that I think also related to toes to bar and like overall just our quarter extremity, like keeping our arms long, things like that I thought, oh, weightlifting will be a good focus. And what's a better way to start off kind of weightlifting than like one of the foundational movements? So I thought to start off, med ball clean would be a good way for me to see how everyone's moving and really get to hammer in some concepts that we'll be building upon for the rest of the month.
And do you explain this to everybody that comes to Sunday class? Hey, just so you know, I'm programming these Sunday workouts, and this is my plan. Like, I really want to focus on these things. You should come every Sunday, and we'll be working on this consistently.
Yeah. So pretty much that's like part of the whiteboard brief, or at least I'll do like a reminder. Again, everyone who was in Sunday today has been to a few of the classes last month where I've mentioned that. So yeah, today was like the unveiling of the new one. They were happy that it wasn't running as the focus. But yeah, so it's nice because you get a similar class base, and then you get, hey, remember last week we were talking about this. We were talking about getting under, what shrugging under means, and this and that. So yeah, it's good to have that base for this week, and then we'll see how we build upon that in the coming weeks.
And I think that's like, we have a fantastic use of a Sunday class. Like Sunday, even in CAP, they're not even programming the workouts anymore. Historically, for many gyms, it's a rest day or like a makeup day or things like that.
Yeah.
And we only have the one class, and it's Saturday might get 12, 14 people. Like, everyone wants to come in on Saturday, but Sunday's a little harder. Sunday's the day where everyone's like, all right, I'm going to just take today completely off and not do anything. So it's good to have that carrot there. I'm like, you know what? I really want to work on my toes to bar. I'm going to go in there. And Miguel already told me what to expect. And I like what you're doing with the focus is weightlifting, but that doesn't mean barbell. Like there's so like and correct me if I'm wrong, you might be taking a more CrossFit weightlifting general view of it, where you did do weightlifting today and you lifted the med ball, and you're using it to feed into probably a squat clean later on, or even snatches. So I just think it's a cool use of it, because this certainly could have been a month of just heavy lifting or strength in a metcon, where nothing really is truly focused on. You're just kind of doing it, which people get results that way. But I like how it's weightlifting, but we're starting off with 4 rounds, 25 med ball cleans, 600-meter run. It's still CrossFit.
Yeah.
You're not turning it into barbell club 2.0,
No, I mean, and even if that's how I'm trying to think of, maybe we'll end off. I think the last week, the level 1 is that last week of July. So maybe that third week. But yeah, I was thinking of maybe ending with Bulgarian total. But there's some things that I want to see within the class base, or at least some things that I can get into their mind, so that queuing later on gets a lot easier. I don't want to feed them to the wolves immediately and then feel like I have to triage so many things, where I can just be like, remember, arms long. And they know what that means, because we've built that up for these amount of weeks leading up. But yeah, it's interesting. The med ball clean, Mike is also doing the level 1. So I was talking overall to the class about just the 9 foundational movements and how I can see weightlifting so easily from the way that everyone does their med ball clean. And I'm like, oh, that I see why you do your cleans this way, because this is how you're doing your med ball clean. But if we work on this, you won't have to pull that bar as high, because we're shrugging under. We did this progression because this is what happens when that bar is heavy. You're not going to be able to pull it as high, or you shouldn't need to pull it as high. So it was good to use one of the foundational movements as well as a base for this is weightlifting.
And, just to take a few steps back to the Bulgarian total, if you do program that, you don't have to be overly, focused on the front squat, because you're probably going to focus on cleans and snatches at some point, and you're really trying to focus on or carry over core to extremity and keeping the arms long and when to shrug, things like that. So it's it doesn't have to be all right, week 1 was front squats, week 2 was snatches, week 3 was cleans, week 4 Bulgarian total. Those they can all kind of just happen and coexist, because you also know they're coming to class other days during the week, and you see back squats, front squats pop up then. So it's you don't have to feel like you have to focus and do it all in one class. And that can sometimes, especially in the beginning, be a little overwhelming when you're all right, I'm coaching this class. What am I going to focus on? Well, we're doing snatches. Oh boy. Well, I need to make sure that they're on the midfoot. I need to make sure they have posture. I need to make sure they're not early arm bending. I need to make sure they do XYZ footwork. There's so much bar path. You could just pick one, just pick one.
Yeah.
That's always the best answer. It's you know what? Today, I'm only focusing on a strong start position. That's it. And I'm going to coach the start position in a way that I'm hoping it's going to set them up for success on those other things that I would want to also focus on. If I have a good start position, more than likely the balance on my feet is correct and where I want it to be.
Right.
More than likely I have good posture. I'm also in the best position to get my efficient bar path. So it's you can just pick one of those things, and then if snatches come up again next week, maybe you're doing a month of snatches, you're all right, I really drove home the start position. I'm going to carry that in, but now I'm really focusing on that core extremity. They have to look both ways, and then they can cross the street. And then I'm always going to reinforce that they look both ways, but now how they cross the street, I'm going to make that even better now. that's a fun part of all of this. And I used to do that, way early on, be like, and that's when you get into the situation of overcoaching. You come in and you're like, I have to do all of it. I have to focus on this, focus on that. A good example would be like back in the day, the split jerk would come up, and I would be like, you know what? We don't split jerk at all. Like I have to do like a whole freaking split jerk seminar, and it's like, nope, no, you don't, because you go overhead how many times a week, often, so
Right.
you don't have to focus on that. You don't have to focus on head through. How about you just focus on the footwork? There you go. Like hopefully you've done the work on the start position with the bar in the front rack. So it's definitely how you can get yourself into trouble, early on coaching, but like you don't have to. You just think you do. Think you need to do it all right away. It's human nature. And it's kind of funny. Things take less time than you think that they actually will. Like, so, on just even the time you have to spend on something, oh, I could spend 5 minutes on this. I could spend 5 minutes on that. They'll still get better. And then you have to give them leeway to not be perfect right away too, right? Did you see any of that in your class where you're like, all right, it's getting better, but like, I'm not going to like get on you for it not being perfect because today's day one.
Yeah. Even in like you don't need to maximize. I understand that it's just a wall ball. So like, you don't need to, there were some drills of like, I'm going to put the hand here and the ball shouldn't go higher than this. But like, I wasn't going to bring it all the way down and be like, you have to be maximum efficient. Like the second you shrug, you should be shrugging under, like, and this is the exact height and all of that. Or even the way that you rotate around the ball. Like, I don't want people to be like fully loose in your hands, but as long as you're not curling, like you have to decide which things, as long as it's improving as we go throughout it. And it's it's a foundational movement. So I'm thinking even like for the next few weeks, part of my warm-ups or little pieces, I might have med ball cleans pop back up, and it'll just be something that's like in the head that throughout the weeks, you can also build upon that as well.
Yeah. Keep layering it in, like today you taught the med ball clean. Next time when it pops up, you might decide to spend less time with the deadlift. Like, all right, good. Everyone's set up on the ball. You're doing great. And you're like, today I'm going to spend like an extra minute or two on that pull under piece.
Yeah.
And then you just, as a group, spend longer on that part of the drill. And then you move on, The front squats, you're like, all right, everyone squat down. Good. All right, do 5 of them, all right, we're moving on from that. That's where we're going, It's cool stuff. And the rate of progress people make, it'll surprise you. Like you'd be, you're going to see it, but you think that you have to do it all every time, but like they will retain stuff, You don't always want to be in a situation of like, they're never going to remember this next time. And maybe this is something to think about too. Maybe the reason they don't remember it from time to time is because you made it way too complicated. Like you were spending more time talking than them moving. You were getting into nuancy stuff that they don't need to know.
Right.
You caught yourself doing anything like that?
Not necessarily. I try to keep it simple unless it's like an after class conversation. But yeah, there are the times where I'm like, yeah, because when I'm doing my cleans, this is what's happening. And, if it's 300 pounds, then the bar's only going to get here and this. And then I'm like, but overall, what I mean is, and then,
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes you do have to cut yourself off and just be like, summarize what you mean. But yeah.
If they were a group of 7-year-olds right now, have I been talking for way too long and giving way too much information? And are they getting bored? Because they probably are. Like they're getting bored the same way those kids would get bored. They're like, that's great. Last week he told us about, his lifts. And now he's telling us about his lifts again. And it's it just gets to be too much, and you're going to forget, but it's good that you have the awareness to catch yourself in the moment. Be like, whoa, what am I doing? Like, this is not a seminar. I have 5 minutes to teach this part in this class.
Right.
And we need to get through that so we can get to the main thing they want to do, which is do the workout. That's why they're here. What do you do as the athlete when you're in a class and the coach might be talking too long, or something feels like, you're just waiting around too long? Do you get antsy? Do you tune out? Or are you just paying attention the whole way through and just waiting?
I would say I want to tune out. I feel like that's the least disruptive option. So I don't know, maybe like, I don't know. I feel like I don't need to do it too often, but I'll literally probably just stop moving completely, and like my eyes will maybe be a little bit glossed over.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't happen often, but there are times where I'm like, I already know what you mean, so I'm just going to be quiet for a little bit and let you finish. But yeah.
And have you had an athlete yet that pushes for more because they just want to like they just want to know? And like, there are athletes that are good at trapping you in conversation because they want to rest or they want to stop, or they're actually like checkmating you. They're like, I'm going to trap you with information. You're going to talk to me, and then you're going to go away, and then I'm going to do what I want to do anyways. Like I've met all these athletes before. They're very good at manipulating the situation, but like, have you had an athlete where they want to know too much information, and you just got to be like, look, you don't need to focus on that right now. You just need to do it. There's no way for you to know what it feels like, or any of these, or there's no way for that information to truly help you do this right now. You just want to know.
Yeah.
Have you had these people?
Not as much in workouts. I've definitely had like in warm-ups where maybe they, again, like, because you are conscious of the time, maybe like a minute longer because you're trying to talk them through this thing. But I am good, I think, again, because it is Sunday, with making it an after the workout type of conversation, where I'm like, yeah, like we can discuss after, but like for now, let's just try to do this thing. And then, yeah, we typically do have those conversations after where, I'll go in as far depth as you need me to after the workout. I'll start from the very beginning and every single thought I have on it, but no, not typically during the workout. No.
Yeah, that's good. And you can also start to develop like your elevator pitch on like what those questions would be. Like, once you've gotten that question like a bunch of times, then you can like have like your quick, like, boom, this is why you need to do this. It's a lot more, elaborate than that, and I can explain after class. But right now, let's just move and let's just practice it. A big part of the understanding is you just doing it. And it's really hard during the Olympic lifts, because you and I know that you can't think yourself through this in the moment. Like, that's how you're going to start to slow down and create other errors. Getting them to understand that is like maybe, the first obstacle. It's like, there's no way to stop during the middle of a snatch and be like, now is the moment where I turn over. Now, all right, engage the hand, straighten the elbow, descend. By the time you start to even remotely start to think about that first step, you've already missed the boat on something that's got to be more reactive. It's an interesting thing. And I think it's good when people do ask those questions. Do you hear me? Do you hear me?
Yeah.
You hear my audio kicking back? Well, do you hear that?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Maybe turn me down just a little bit. Maybe sometimes I think maybe if I speak too loudly, I'm hearing myself back. But I think it is motivating when you do meet those people, because it shows you they want to learn, right? They want to do more. So that could be someone where you're like, you know what? Yeah, let's have that conversation after class. Maybe you're someone that will do the work after class. Hey, on the pull-ups, if you really are serious about this, well, I can give you extra work to do. And they're like, yeah, let me do that. Or double unders. They're like, well, I just don't get it. And like, what's supposed to happen here? And they understand the explanation. And then you're like, hey, spend 10 minutes after class practicing it. Come in before class. And then those might be the people that actually do it. And I also think that those are the people that are very inquisitive that might be the most receptive to take that step into nutrition and doing things outside of class. I that's just what I've noticed. Have you noticed that to be true of anyone?
I guess I haven't delved like too far into those specifics, but I mean, that's always what it leads to, where they have those questions and they want to know how you build up certain things and how you feel a certain way. And yeah, those are always the answers of like, oh, well, this is what makes me feel better in this. And I'm taking time outside of class. And I learned this before. I would do this for this many minutes before. I would test out this. I would eat this and fuel this way. And yeah, I think all those things come with those conversations for sure.
Yeah. And I think it's something that should be encouraged. And, I'm not like, oh, here's this guy again. He's so annoying in class. He's always needs to know why. Like you can try to take it a different way. And who knows, that could be a coach someday. That's like, they're like, I really want to know this stuff. And then you're like, hey, read this article, or hey, take the level 1. It's coming to our gym, or take this course on weightlifting, or read this book. And that might make them a better athlete, because we're not trying to hide or shield people from some of this information. CrossFit's all open source. It's all out there. Anyone can download the level 1 manual. I've sent the level 1 manual to so many members over the years. Like, hey, read this. This is what you're doing. And you're asking all these questions we're talking about at the gym. Well, I think you should read this too. And then that just gets them further into the Kool-Aid,
Yeah.
So it's really cool stuff. I think that's awesome what you're doing in the Sunday classes. And did you see that they're going to be bringing back program Sunday classes?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know what the reason for doing away with them was, and I don't know what the reason to bring them back was, other than maybe people are upset that they're not doing it. But then again, there's a list of hundreds of benchmark and hero wads that have lesson plans. So if you're upset about it, do you just not want to do the work to click that link and decide what class you're going to do on Sunday? And I don't know. Again, that's me put my brain into why this might be happening. But it certainly doesn't mean that we have to switch. Like if you want to keep picking the Sunday classes, we can do that. And then we'll just always have a backlog of these Sunday classes that we haven't used. And then I think if there's I guess for lack of a better term, a lame Saturday wad, well, hey, let's do that Sunday wad too.
Yeah.
So it's all cool stuff. And with people getting progress, you saw a lot of good progress during the toes to bar thing. It's
definitely,
it doesn't take as long as you think to get stuff done, whether it be getting people better at a movement over the course of a couple weeks, or even during class, if you have a progression that you're like, all right, how much time am I going to spend on toes to bar? If you are proficient and efficient in what you're doing and you have a plan, you can get people better very, very quick. And that's what we want, right? Like we want the athlete to have high intensity and do things quickly and efficiently. Well, we as the coach also want to do the same thing in how we're, administrating the movements. We want to be able to teach pull-ups quickly, efficiently, and not burn any more time than we need to on it. And these things, they don't take as long as you think that they need to. You don't need to do a workshop in the middle of your class on pull-ups. You can just teach pull-ups, and if you're effective with your cueing and correcting, your seeing and correcting, it'll work. Like the time before we do the podcast, I'm always so productive, and I've been doing like housework before, like the hour before we have to do the podcast, and I'm more efficient and fast in this time than I am if there was no podcast and I was just moping around like, let me clean this counter, let me do this. Like I just before we got on, I cleaned my bathroom, and I've been putting it on because of the mere thought of just how long it's going to take. And then it took me not even 10 minutes because I'm like, I have to move because I have to be ready for Miguel at 1. And that means I need to like cut out all the steps. I just need to get in there. And you know what I started doing? First, big ticket items.
Mm-hmm.
What is the most important thing right now? What's my big focus? I get in there, boom, and then all the little trim and the little things, and it's funny. It's the same with teaching a movement. Like if I'm going to teach the handstand push-ups, what's my big ticket item going in today? Bam, I need to get it done. And then if I have a little bit of extra time, well, what's the thing that I really enjoy to do? All right, well, hey, let's add in this other little thing that makes James McDermott happy. But if I don't have time for that today, get rid of it. Just what was the most big important thing I need to do today? It's funny. It's like it's so true. How you do one thing is how you do everything. And sometimes you need to be reminded about how to do the one thing, and it's always just what is the quickest, simplest way, get out of your own way and go for the big ticket items. And then
yeah, exactly.
I'm sure you did that with the like how did you teach the med ball clean? What like did you did the classic progression, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think within the med ball clean, there are the steps where you're like, this I want to spend more time on this. They will get fairly. I think it's like very clearly the deadlift is the deadlift. The deadlift and shrug, you take a little bit more time because you're focusing on, the shrug is a tough movement for everyone, I feel.
It is.
To like not do too much elsewhere. And the just shrugging and going back down and not holding the shrug and, not letting the arms do whatever they want. And then you go back to the top and the front squat is the front squat. So as long as people are squatting, okay, and elbows are up and the way that you need them to be, that part doesn't need as much time. The drop under, I partnered them up as well, but that's something where it's like, let me show you exactly what I mean by this. Okay, here's how we're going to do it with a partner. I'll grab someone and like, here's what I want you to do while I do this. Okay, partner up and do this. And, we might go back to your individual stations and then let's go over it a little bit more because this is what I want to see a little bit more from this. And then you go through the whole thing and then you're talking about stringing together reps. And yeah, each part takes, you got to decide like what is something that I'm looking for, what works best with the group today, what needs to be kind of touched on a little bit more. And yeah, it kind of just works its way out that way.
And you have to understand that, like, especially if you have a group of athletes like you had today who've been doing like almost everybody in that class has been doing CrossFit for, let me say 7+ years, but some of them 10+ years.
Yeah.
But like, they just deadlifted last week. We back squatted last week. You've seen Mike front squat, all these things. But also that they haven't med ball cleaned potentially in a year or more. Like, I was thinking about it. I'm like, have I taught the med ball clean this year? I can't remember teaching it this year. So you have taught the med ball clean more times than I've taught the med ball clean. So like I'm like, should I throw that in? Like, I need practice on that too. But the programming's not giving it to me, the coach, either. Yeah. So when do I even do that? But and with the med ball clean, you have to know all the points performance of the deadlift, of the squat, and then also the med ball clean itself. So it can be a vast coaching task, but that's where your skill also comes into play. Well, I haven't been teaching the med ball clean, but I have been teaching the deadlift and the front squat all year. Right. So that checks off some boxes, and I know what I'm looking for there. I know what I want them to do when it comes to this movement. And I can be also very quick and efficient because I don't know if this is the right way to say this. Maybe you can tell me this as from an athlete perspective. I'm not going to insult their intelligence by teaching the med ball clean like they don't know or have never deadlifted before. If it's a group full of like on-ramp people or it's their first time, yes. Or if there's a first timer or someone I don't know in class, I might go a little slower. But I'm not going to insult their intelligence and be like, you guys have never seen a deadlift before. I just saw the new Jurassic Park movie, and my intelligence was insulted. Why does every movie have a Jurassic Park movie? Why does everyone have to involve things like you're calling back to the original movies that you're assuming I won't go watch if I've never seen them before after this or have not seen beforehand? Why do we have to keep doing the same thing every time?
Right.
And I was thinking about that from like an athlete perspective in class. I'm like, yeah, this would start to get boring and old to the point, and like you can't assume they're professionals, right? But you also shouldn't assume that they're dumb. And when I watched that movie, I was like, I'm I don't normally leave the movie theater offended or upset, but I'm a little annoyed at like what was done in this movie and that you think I'm a complete idiot coming to watch it. Not only from like a narrative standpoint and other things, but just in the theme of Jurassic Park movies that I've never seen this before. Like you're treating everyone like we're stupid. That's what you're doing. But I think that's analogous sometimes for class that you could do that essentially, it's almost like, all right, guys, like here's a deadlift that you've never seen before. Watch me do it. 3 different positions. And they're all like, you saw me PR my deadlift last week. Why are you treating me like this? You know what I mean? Like, does it make sense what I'm saying? Would you agree from an athlete perspective and from a coach perspective?
Yeah, I think, and it's another conversation that I think I've been having with, I think everyone. I mean, we've talked about expectations for a workout too, right? Where we're going, this is the time. Are we then going to scale that time down because we think everyone's going to get slower? Or is it like teach it in the most efficient way for, like, let's say athletes that we know are familiar. And then if we need to add in more, we do. Or if we need to focus on something, we'll see that. Instead of like, let's start as if, from scratch. Like no one has ever done any of this before. And I don't think that that's necessary unless like, that that's something you need to do.
Yeah. The starting from scratch, just demo it. Like, hey guys, med ball clean, just a reminder, here's what we're looking for. Boom, boom, hit it.
Yeah.
And then, all right, first part of it is a deadlift. And then, you could just maybe for a class like that, add in something. So I'm playing with my rubber duck. You could like add in, hey, on the med ball cleans, the deadlift is a little different than barbell deadlifts. So here's what I want you to do. Like you have to figure out ways to give them value or the things that you're talking about. That way, when like Mike, Sarah, Nicole, and Patrick, you're like, hey guys, this deadlift's a little different. Now take a look at me. And now here's what's going to help you get through the workout. They're like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's what I want. Because like, hey, you don't have to worry about going around your knees. We're going through the knees. Yeah. And then maybe saying through the knees helps them keep it more close and vertical with their ball path. So like there's ways to add value, but if you're always teaching it like on-ramp style, so to say, you're going to lose some people in class, maybe even all of them. And I've done that before. We've been through phases at the gym where every coach was doing that, where every coach was like teaching it, where it's like, hey, it's like you're all seeing it from the first time. But if you have a class of 25 people, you may have to have a different approach than if you have just like 4 people or 10 new people or 10 veterans. Like there's a nuancy way to like do this. And you could teach that med ball clean 15 different ways with 15 different contexts, on ramp, veterans, large group, one-on-one person, you just have to know how to do that, and you gain that skill over time.
Right.
And then at some point you have to trust that they know what they're doing. Like, I mean, imagine if we started Barbell Club And I was teaching it like, you guys have never snatched before. It's like, come on now. Have we not, how many meets have we done? Things like that.
Yeah.
Like you guys are deeply ingrained in it. So, but it's like if I did that every single time, would you feel like attacked in a way? I'm like maybe not attacked, but like, hey, don't you think I know how to do this? Like, aren't you going to give me a little bit of a benefit of the doubt here?
Right. Yeah,
So,
definitely. I mean, I think those are maybe my tune out moments. Like I'll do everything that any coach tells me to do because that's just, I don't see there being really any other option unless if they're like putting me in danger. But like, so I'll always do it. But like, if then we're talking about, all right, this is what this movement is, and they're talking like I've never done it before, that's kind of my tune out moments where I'm like, yep, got it.
How crazy would it be for me to have a bar set up in Barbell Club at this point? Like, all right, guys, we're gonna snatch. Let me show you what it looks like, and demo the snatch. Like, I feel like the class would not be fun doing that for every little thing, and two, I would not be surprised if everyone was like a little offended on like just like, well, don't like, did you forget that we know how to do this by now, and then like most of the time I'm cueing you guys. It's a lot of reminding you guys of what we've agreed you're working on, and how to maybe a certain piece of it, like I was reminding Haley on Wednesday a lot on like finishing the pull. She knows she needs to finish the pull, but at this point she just needs to tell her, hey, you're not doing it really well today.
Yeah.
Like this day you did a really good job on it on Monday, but for whatever reason you're not doing it today. And maybe it's because she wrote down on a card, well, my focus was on my elbows today, so I wasn't even thinking about that. Like, because you guys are thinking about things way different than the average class goer. So sometimes I need just to remind you or bring you back to the basics. Like, hey, you and I got in a conversation within the last couple of weeks on like, hey, your start position was different on all the lifts you just did, like for every single set. And you're just not able to find it that day, like Haley and I had a conversation recently about that too. It's like every single lift had a different start position.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of that is that, we go from the hang more than we go from the floor. And that's why our final stretch up the states is going to be floor, where we don't need to focus on what's going on at your hip. You just need to, all that work you did earlier in the week, going from mid thigh to hip or hip to finish, you need to find that, you need to channel all that now. But now we have 3 days a week of, what do I do from the floor again? And sometimes you guys forget. Like we get to Friday and you're like, what do I do again when I get there? Because you were going from different positions earlier in the week, So like I have to anticipate that a little bit. And then you find that from, do you feel like that's why sometimes you just forget what you're doing? Because do you ever think about that maybe it's because like we're doing so much from the hang 365? Like if you did the math, we're going from the hang way more than we actually go from the floor.
Yeah, no, that's 100% what it is that I'm like, I would know what this feels like because even like a top down fully, like you're starting from the floor again, that's like slightly different than going from the floor. Even because sometimes maybe I think an issue too is speed from the floor, because you're like, I've been picking it up and I've been picking it up pretty intentionally, and even like, shrug at the top after you do that first pull, but you're like, oh yeah, this is fully going in one movement. Like, what is the speed that I use to do that? And like, how exactly is my butt set to make sure that I can get the right leverage, to get the right speed to do this and that? And yeah,
it's a funny thing. Our program has been effective and it's working, but I would never say it's perfect, because the fact that we go from the floor a third of the time is a flaw in the program. And I don't know how it would change if we went from the floor twice a week and only the hang once a week. Because right now it's not broke, so why would I fix it?
Right.
You know, and in my head, those are strength days that just happen to mirror the main movements a little bit.
Yep.
But on Friday, that's the full thing. That is the thing. I would, but the thing that got me thinking about it is that we did full lifts on Wednesday. Rebecca hasn't hit a Friday or has had inconsistent Fridays, and this was a struggle for her. I'm like, wait, what do I do? What is she doesn't know her start position yet.
Yeah.
Because she hasn't had to do it. So she's only coming in Mondays and Wednesdays. She's never going from the floor, even though I try to encourage you guys to deadlift the bar up to the hang the same way you would snatch. That's our only saving grace in the program with this format, is if you set up on the bar exactly like you would if you were going to snatch it, but then just pull to the hip and then go do your snatch from the mid thigh or low hang, whatever it is. That's how you as the athlete can mitigate this flaw in the programming. Even though the programming works, it's not perfect. It will never be perfect. It's impossible to make it perfect. Even if we went full Bulgarian, snatch from the floor along with our squats 3 days a week, there's still the flaw of, well, now we're pulling too much. Everyone's back hurts. Yeah. Everyone, there's gonna be a flaw that pops up. Like, there's a reason the Bulgarians were hurt all the time. I mean, they were also maxing out all the time, multiple times a day. But I don't know if it'd be different if they were going from different positions. So that's what got me thinking about it. I'm like, wow, all right, Rebecca hasn't had to do this in a while, so she didn't know what to do. And I had to this is what you need to do to get in your start position. And I had to help her find it. I'm like, this is our focus for today. We can't do anything else. You need to, has to be what you're channeling your brain energy into. So it's just an interesting thing on the programming. It can almost never be perfect. That's why it needs to always be evolving. The programming that we do next year might look very, very similar, but there has to be some tweaks in it on the things that we found that didn't work. Like, another thing that I don't know yet if it's a flaw in the programming or not is we seem to be really making a lot of progress on the back squat, but the front squat progress is it seems like it go 50-50. I don't know. Or some of you guys will PR on the front squat and others won't, you're just kind of stuck on the front squat. And it could just be you're just better at back squatting than you are front squatting. It could also be that maybe it's not enough volume what we're doing with the front squats. Because remember, we're using the squats kind of as a warm up too, to get us into the lifts. So we're only doing 6 sets of front squats, 3, 2, 1, and 3 singles. Maybe the front squat needs to be a multi-rep thing all the time to truly get what we need out of it. Maybe singles isn't going to be as effective as it could be.
It could also be the day, right?
That too.
It could be because not we used it up on the Monday, but one is getting hit twice while one is getting hit once.
Yeah, the frequency.
So, I mean, yeah.
And I've thought about that. And then the gamble would be, and I've mentioned this in class, maybe we front squat Monday and Friday for a cycle and back squat on Wednesday once. We flip the script. Maybe this is an argument that they should flip cycle to cycle, and the same way if you were doing the conjugate method for Westside, you would maybe cycle your exercises every 2 to 3 weeks. So you're still deadlifting, but it's a different variation of the deadlift. So you never get fully adapted to it. Maybe we need to be doing that cycle to cycle. So the beginning of the year, back squat twice a week, front squat once. The second cycle after that, front squat twice a week, back squat once. The cycle after that, repeat, back squat twice a week, front squat. And that would be 3 cycles to get us to states. But maybe we needed that middle one of just a little extra front squatting mid-year. And that's going to push the needle even further. It's all theoretical. I don't know. There's no textbook out there that says, oh, do it exactly this way. You'll have perfect results every time. Because we have so many varied individuals. And we do have some people in the group that are better at front squatting than back squatting, and vice versa. And energy, like Chris just PR'd his back squat. He got 170. Like that's a huge back squat. When he joined the barbell club, it was like 150. So you would expect him to like PR his back squat, but to be in the 170s, that's huge, but he also is acquiescing to eating more, and he ate more on the back squat day, but he hasn't been as solid with his nutrition, I feel, as you would need to be to have that everything carry over and not be fully wrecked on front squat day, which is just 2 days later. And he didn't PR his front squat. He was only 3 kilos away. His PR is 137. We tried 140. We couldn't get it. I think that's just being gassed from the week, So yeah, I don't know. It's fun to think about, right? On like, oh, what if we do this? What if we do that? What if we add in pauses? I've been thinking about this now. I'm like, should we be doing pauses on the front squats for at least the warm-up sets and then get into the other one? Like, how can we squeeze more juice out of this fruit? It's a constant debate, But one thing's for sure is with the level of consistency we've had, the adaptation is there. People are improving in their strength, and their lifts are also going up. Like we had some PRs that we just weren't focused on going for PRs for the snatch and the clean and jerk, but people were getting them, out. And again, if Alex or one of you guys is like, hey, feeling good today, should I go for it? Yes, you should go for it, because next week may not be the most perfect day. When we snatch and clean jerk next Friday, it may not be as perfect of a storm of your nutrition, life, recovery, sleep as right now. So let's go for it. And then you know what? We'll go for it again next week and try to get a few more extra kilos. You went for a back squat PR the Friday before we last Monday. You PR'd, and then you PR'd again on, like, there doesn't need to be a special appointment. It'll only work on this chosen date,
Yeah, right.
Because, I mean, remember, I used to train just maxing out every day. It wasn't a PR every day. I had to wait for things to kind of align in the training and everything else I was doing. But yeah, you could theoretically just max out every day. That could be the program. We choose not to train that way.
Yeah.
But there's no reason why we can't go for it now. We have to strike while the iron's hot, and it's kind of funny. Like, I think I mentioned to you, I'm like, I've lost control of the room, like on what we're even doing today.
Yeah.
But also I fed into losing control of the room, because I realized that if we do this, then it may jeopardize. Really, the main thing it'll jeopardize is finishing on time.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know what? I'm okay with it. If we get out 10 minutes late, but it means we got a couple extra PRs on the snatch, worth it. Spent it. I'm not being evaluated on this class. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And of course, next time we'll try to finish on it. I don't know. What was I forgot what my premise was with this. I guess we're into adaptations.
I guess training. That's the adaptation, right? Yeah.
Yeah. We're seeing it. It's happening.
Yeah.
But we want to be greedy. Want more. But I think it's okay to be greedy with it and want more, and it's fun to see everyone making progress. And I don't know, do you think the fact that we're giving out a little dinosaur now fueled people into wanting to go to those snatch PRs? Because that's crazy if it is. If like had there, so if anyone's not aware from last time, I've purchased little tiny acrylic dinosaurs like this little duck. And if you PR, you get a dinosaur now. You get a treat. And I was thinking, I'm like, had there been no dinosaurs, would Chris, Alex, and Justin went for those PRs unless I specifically said, you know what, let's just go for it, right? Like if I just came around, I'm like, you know what, take an extra set. We're a kilo off. You're looking really good today. Let's go for it. Which I need to do more of that, I feel, especially on days when we're on like the one set. I've been doing a lot with Justin on like, you know, let's just go 60. Like do 2 sets at 58 and then go 60. but I need to do that more with other people. But if had there been no dinosaur incentive, do you think people would have been like, like, I'm good, just hit my weights and then move on?
Kind of, yes. But it's also a mixture. I feel like the way that we've been doing our programming has made it so that it's not clear like everyone is at 90% today. Then next
Yeah.
week's 95. Then next week we're going for maxes, you know? I think with the way of rating yourself and numbers go up by feel, I think we've now made our training in a way that it is more acceptable, or like it's more likely that you can PR during training because it's off of
Yeah.
your feel. And I think everyone knowing how they feel is really important. And I think that that's what leads to PRs. Like you said, like, okay, we've been feeling good. I'm 3 kilos away. Why not just go for it? It kind of takes away pressure from those, like, I have to have a perfect week next week because next week is the max out week. But
Yeah.
all that to say, yes, the dinosaurs 100% are the biggest motivator, because I think, like, I'm very much like, even if I am feeling great, maybe I'll bump up, but I won't go for PR because I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'll save it for that week. But
Yeah.
now with like the opportunity of like getting ahead of others with these dinosaur counts, you are more likely to strike while it's hot, you know, and not wait for perfect day that it's, you know, in the programming itself.
Exactly. There is no perfect day than the day we're in, right? The moment we're in. And you can't perfectly plan like, all right, Miguel will go for a PR on August 31st, and that is the allotted day. All the math somehow leads, like, I know this will be the day we PR. Well, what if we PR today, tomorrow, and August 31st? You know,
Right.
that's more progress. That's way better. That's why there's never a limit on it. That's why when Jennifer, you know, bumps up by a couple kilos, and I'm like, oh, well, now I have less room to move things up. You know, for next week, what are we going to do? Well, Jennifer's just going to have to find a new PR on week 4, you know,
Yeah.
and she did, you know, and all right, then I'll just reset the weights and I'll let Jennifer know, hey, you found your PR. I need to give you something to do. So let's go high percentage again. You know, it's completely fine, you know, or if someone says they want to go heavier. And I like how it's been less than a week. It took 3 training sessions, maybe less, for this thing of who has the most dinosaurs to rear its head or to
Right.
be a thing, be spoken into the room. So that's just kind of funny too. On like, I believe Alex has the lead. Who's keeping track? Alex is, you know. So it's just a funny thing because you could have kept track on like who's PR'd the most this year so far, but now there's like a tangible thing that like look, I have more coins than everyone else. You know, um, it's I think it's fun. It adds like a neat element to it, and I think it's cool too, where it's like, hey, if today's feeling like today, you can go for a dinosaur today. You don't have to do these heavy sets. And of course, we don't want it to be an out for doing work, you know. I'm like, well, I don't want to have to do 5 sets of this. So I'll just how about I just ramp, I'm feeling good today. Let me just
Yeah.
ramp it up and then do that. You know, I mean, I'll catch on eventually, and then we'll have to do something where it's like, okay, well, what happens when you don't PR? What do I get then? You know, because
Mhm.
I mean, I wanted these 5 sets, and then Miguel said he's feeling really good. All right, well, he said that the last 5 weeks, and he's never had to do these 5 sets. So how about if you don't PR today, you have to still do the 5 sets, or you have to go
Yeah.
back down and finish them. You know, there's at some point, you need to pay me too. You know, with the work, and then I'll pay you with the dinosaur when
Yeah.
you cash in. So it's just a funny thing, and it's pretty cool to see, you know, our newer people making progress the way they are. Everybody making progress. But I was thinking about Rebecca again. She just back squatted 100 kilos, and she started in January. Doesn't come 3 days a week, you know, all the time because of her schedule, but she's squatting at least once a week. You can guarantee that at least once a week she's squatting. And here we are, 0 to 100 Like that's pretty darn good. And it leads me to think, should we have a consistent strength program in our CrossFit program, like for our CrossFit people? Is it appropriate to do it in class, or is it best to have it be optional work outside of class for those who want it? Because like Rebecca, I'm pretty sure I taught her how, like Shai taught her how to front squat with an empty bar, and then I taught her first class in barbell club, and it took a while to retain all the things we want to do for this movement. And all right, we got to get low, knees out, heels, elbow, everything. And then all the cleans and snatches she's doing. So she's got a lot on her plate from starting as a beginner to figure out and learn.
Yeah.
Jumping in the barbell club with no prior barbell club training it's a big task. And she's done a fantastic job of retaining all this. And then hopefully retaining what she learns in the CrossFit classes when she comes on Saturdays or Sundays. But I think that's phenomenal progress. And it just shows the power of a little bit of consistency. I mean, to go from never front squatting or really training it heavy to front squatting 100 kilos in 6 months, just had a baby the year before, you work a full-time job, you're in your mid-30s. This is a lot to ask, but this is our typical CrossFit person. But you don't see that kind of, progress in strength so much. So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, it would be interesting. I've said it before, but I whenever I drop into gyms, I keep their newsletter in my emails. And I kind of see what other gyms are doing. And it's sometimes it's very interesting because I also question, I'd need to get in there and see what their numbers are looking like. But I have seen some gyms where Tuesdays are strength days, where they're it's not necessarily it's CrossFit still, but this day is specifically we're doing this type of thing. And CAP does it where they have their strength days. I feel like maybe that rotates what day it is, but it would be interesting to kind of have a specific day for it. That is a more typical day of people come in more on this day. And maybe keep the movement the same for a couple weeks and see and retest, because there's so much in CrossFit that I feel like when it's programmed for start at 75%, not even, it's easier for us because you keep such tight track of our numbers. But if you're just coming in for a CrossFit class, knowing what your 75% of your back squat is and planning out your jumps well enough so that you can PR at the end and something like that. So it would definitely be interesting. I think maybe it would be helpful for people in CrossFit to kind of straight up just see numbers going up, and even not a push for PRs necessarily, but make it a little bit more accessible for them to do that.
Yeah. And I mean, you see it done multiple ways. We do the more traditional style of whatever, one workout a day, right? So we're not going to do a strength piece, a Metcon, and then an accessory piece.
Yeah.
Because the thought process is the coaching is reduced. The amount of coaching you're going to do. If you had in your class today a heavy clean, that Metcon, which is about 15 minutes, and then a bunch of accessory at the end, you're probably not going to coach the med ball clean the way you did today. Really take your time with it. So I think we do need those days. But there's also, you can go too far with it on, I know Mayhem programming is packed. And whenever I see it, I'm like, how are you gonna coach? When I went out to Colorado, I coached at a gym that does Mayhem, and I didn't do everything of what I erased it off the board. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to coach my own class, you know, and no one said anything. I mean, the owner wasn't there, and my buddy who coaches at that gym, he had left. And then the coach that was going to coach it was just there just to kind of make sure if I had any questions and stuff. And I just erased the board and rewrote just the Metcon. And I'm like, that's all I'm doing because I knew I was going to fill that hour with coaching. Like, hey, we're going to work on the bar muscle ups. And then there were 3 barbell movements, I think, deadlifts, overhead squats, and back squats, something like that. And you had to do bar muscle ups in between. So I'm like, I have to coach. Actually, I think I sent you this workout. It's a bar muscle up barbell workout. And I asked you and Mike, how long do you think this would take you? And so I was like, I have so much coaching to do. How am I going to get through this with an EMOM of bar muscle up stuff, and then this other piece, and this other piece, and then the Metcon? And I still struggled to fit it all into an hour. I'm like, I'm like, do you want a 2-hour class right now? You know, plus I'm not also conditioned as a coach to coach that volume of stuff. And also it would feel wrong to be like, all right, guys, part 1, we're going to do this, you know, and like demo the movements to be like, get set up. And then 3, 2, 1, we start, you know, and then I'm going around. It would feel weird to do that, especially since I was in level 4 mode, which is like, that's not how you're going to take that exam. So, you know, there's that way. You could do strength and Metcon every day, but that's also, so it's like, I guess my first question on this, like, at what point is it CrossFit and at what point isn't it CrossFit? Or is it all CrossFit, Miguel? What do you think?
Right. Well, yeah, that's the thing. I kind of question, I guess you could call it a lack of that, right? Because it's CrossFit is constantly varied and you want that variation in your programming as well. And do we feel like maybe there are too many Metcons and not enough purely strength days? Like without the like breaking it up and like every day is strength and Metcon, like do we need, let's say we have 6 days a week programming and those are Metcons and we have 1 strength day. Like, is that as constantly varied as it should be? Or should there be weeks where it's like, 3 rep max here, 5 rep max here, maxing out this, and then only 2 of those classes have Metcons on them?
Yeah. Well, it's like, if we go back to the definition, constantly varied functional movements executed at high intensity. That's the definition of CrossFit. So when someone's like, well, what is CrossFit? That's the written definition of it, right?
Right.
But nowhere in there does it say anything about programming for CrossFit. It doesn't say that, well, all right, if you do back squat on Monday, presses on Wednesday, deadlifts on Friday, that is not CrossFit if you do it every single time, because constantly vary thing. Well, okay, well, how deep does that go? What if we do week 1, pause back squats, week 2, 20 rep max back squat, week 3, 1 rep max back squat, week 4, 5 sets of 5 at 80%, and I vary it every single Monday, and I do the same for those other barbell movements, and the Metcons are always changing. Does that fit the definition now better? Like, and that'll still work, by the way, for the general population. If we did that, they would get better at all those things. They would get stronger, you know. Is it more the programmer is deciding what CrossFit is? Because if you look at CAP, it's different from .com. .com is saying this is CrossFit. Like, if you're doing CrossFit, you're following this workout prescription. In CAP, they'll do things where we will deadlift 3 Mondays in a row. Well, is this still CrossFit? Are we still doing CrossFit? Like,
Right.
I don't know. I think the answer is yes. They're all CrossFit. You're still doing CrossFit. But then, like, where does it stop? Are we doing CrossFit in barbell club? We have a fixed
depends. Because variation, definition of variation is something, right?
Yeah.
Like we get abs in, we get we do our core work, we do our squatting, we do snatch and clean and jerk. And is that enough to call it varied, or, you know?
The sets and reps change.
Yeah.
They may not change day to day, but they do change over the weeks and months. There's different variations that all change. There's things that come in on the peripheries of the class, like you said. I don't know. So you see what I'm saying? It's like, at what point where is the line? I'm like, oh, they are not doing CrossFit. They are doing CrossFit. But if you start doing this thing over here, it's no longer CrossFit. Like what? I mean, so I think the answer is yes. We're doing not the barbell. Yeah. You know, I don't know. That's the tricky part. I think in regular class,
I guess it's a more of like, yeah, and I guess that's still varied, but it's like over a certain time period, what things do we feel like we've been omitting? And then can we get that in? Yeah, I guess it's not necessarily, it would be hard to say that something isn't until you go, well, we haven't touched on this ever.
Yeah.
Or, you know, so.
Because if you look at the definition, let's use barbell club as an example. Functional movements. Are we doing functional movements? According to CrossFit, yes. We're squatting, we're deadlifting, we're pressing, we're doing snatch, clean, and jerk. Those are all part of the prescription. We do the hollow stuff. We do pull-ups. We do push-ups. We do all these things. We even do rowing on day 4. We even do Metcon sometimes. So functional movements, check. Functional movements, constantly varied. It's not constantly varied.
Right.
It's just varied. High intensity. Well, what's your definition of the high intensity? We like our intensity is from the heaviness of the weights, not but we still get it the way we do it. We still get it done in a very short amount of time. It's not for time, but not every CrossFit workout is, because we'll have CrossFit workouts that aren't for time. So it seems like the thing that we're missing from Barbell Club is that word constantly varied, because it's not constantly varied, but it is varied.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we need to have all components to call it CrossFit? Yeah, I don't know. It's weird, right?
Yeah, I guess it's, again, I think it's like, what do they call it?
And I'm not saying, by the way, that we are doing CrossFit in Barbell Club. We're clearly not. But we're doing a thought experiment now on what is appropriate for the general population class, and like, are we still doing the thing?
I guess it's like reasonable doubt, right? Where there has to at least be a chance that something could come up. So I would say the thing with Barbell Club is like, we are not doing some of these things that are included in CrossFit. But in CrossFit programming, there's always a chance that these things can pop up next week or the week after, you know?
Yeah, and I've explicitly said we don't do burpees in Barbell Club.
Right. Yeah.
We're not going to do them. We make the joke that don't get up too quickly from the floor. We don't want that to be thought of as a burpee. A burpee has never been done in Barbell Club. But then in the regular CrossFit, so in the regular CrossFit class, let's go across the hall. In CrossFit in general, if we want to train things, but the thing is, people don't get good at them without consistency, without training them regularly. Rope climbs come up once every 6 months. All right, then is the movement pool too big in CrossFit? Can we still do CrossFit with a small movement pool and get really good at those things? Should it be smaller? Or is it okay to have a big movement pool? Because all the pull-ups and push-ups and sit-ups and other things and toes to bar you're going to do should feed into the rope climbs. You know, your box jumps feed into your power cleans. Your double unders feed into your box jumps and your power cleans. Like, there's that thing of all things are connected in CrossFit. And that's why you might tell people to pull on a clean differently than we would maybe in a weightlifting specific class, because we want your deadlift pull and your clean pull to be pretty close, because this is the Gen Pop athlete who just needs to get good at pulling with a brace midline and good posture and engaging their hips, right? They're not trying to be a specialist, where your pull is a little more nuanced, and the way you pull on the snatch is probably miles away from the way you would pull on a conventional deadlift, correct?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Is the movement pull too big and we should shorten it down? Or is the philosophy that these things should feed into one another correct? But also at the same time, I don't know if I've witnessed that, because we'll go through periods where we're doing all these other things. Then we get that movement that we haven't done in a while and no one can do it, or no one has gotten better at doing it from doing this foundation of these other movements.
Right.
What do you think? Athlete perspective.
Yeah, I agree. Where we're saying, like, you don't always have to teach it like we're starting from scratch, but there are times where you're like, yeah, we have not touched this in a very long time. And yeah, I mean, that's also the training aspect of, you can get really good at 15-minute metcons, or you can get really good at 10-minute. Like, the problem with the open that people always have is like, oh, all these time domains are so similar, because part of that training is also not just movement, but time domains, like intensity throughout different durations of time.
Yeah.
Which includes, like, they have that graph where it's like 2 seconds for like a 1 rep max deadlift to like a marathon. Like, these are all the time domains that we should be able to find an intensity level in. So yeah, if we don't touch on all of them, they should help, but there are glaring points where it's almost like dead zones.
Yeah. Because we want to be generally fit for life, right? Like the focus in Barbell Club is that we are getting maximally strong for the snatch and clean and jerk. And the squats, they're coming along for the ride, because we do have concrete research data that, like, if I keep pushing that back squat up, my snatch and clean should benefit from that. So like, it's kind of like another passenger in the car that, like, we can't afford to get rid of it. You know, we got to keep, it's got to be coming with us, even though in the front seat is the snatch and clean and jerk. But we have to keep these other things along for the ride. In CrossFit, the goal isn't to master rope climbs. The goal is to be generally physically prepared for the demands of life, you know, the unknown and the unknowable. And then when it pops up in the class and it's been a while, well, that's unknown and unknowable. It might make you a little nervous and stuff. And the pull-ups and toes to bar and even the muscle-ups don't get you psychologically ready to go up that rope. It's a whole different thing. You know, like, if you're going to go 15 feet in the air, people are scared to do that, you know, because there is no safety net either. You know, you let go of that rope up there, or you get caught up there, or you don't have confidence in your grip strength or your technique, or maybe you just don't even know how to get down. That's a whole deal. So maybe that's not necessarily a flaw of the programming. It just, we have to remember what is the goal of the program. So but then again, if we were to add in a consistent thing where, like, hey, every Thursday we're working on rope climb skills, not just only keep the focus on like the back squat or something. We're going to do rope climb skills every Thursday. We're still doing CrossFit. And if you wanted to be very, you know, religious about it, you could make that constantly varied, you know, on like your approach to the rope climb practice, but you don't need to either. But also, what if doing that every Thursday, that in turn did feed into getting people better pull-ups, toes to bar, and muscle-ups? Well, then why wouldn't we do that on a fixed program? Right. You know, well, class is meant for general physical preparedness, the Metcon. But also, well, what's wrong with having one day be a break from that, you know? But then again, not everyone comes in at the same day, so you have to rotate your heavy days. It should pop up on a Tuesday, so it should be varied like that. So there's, I mean, and there's no right or wrong reason. There's no way to come out perfect, I think, from this scenario. I think you just got to kind of do it. So yeah, I was just wondering about that. I'm like, would our people be better off if maybe we did have one heavy day, specifically like Monday, we're working that back squat. But then if let's say James McDermott wanted to be a CrossFit purist, you're like, well, all right, if we do back squats every Monday, that limits what we can do on that Monday in terms of time domain. Like if we're always doing 5x5 back squat, then it always has to be a 10-minute or less Metcon. Well, now we can't go long on Mondays. Well, what if one Monday we just worked up to a heavy set, and then now the rest of the class is a 20-minute AMRAP or something? Like I feel like you can get out of it with the programming. But then now if you're figuring out strategies to get out of this situation with the programming, what about the coaching? Does the coaching suffer? But also in the definition of CrossFit, it doesn't say anything about coaching. This is, again, something else that we're putting into it. Nowhere on the pyramid is there anything about coaching. Coaching is this tool is CrossFit. I mean, is coaching a tool outside of what CrossFit is, that it's just one tool you use to get better at CrossFit? You see what I'm saying here?
Right. I think it's an outside thing. I would say that, because there's skills that you can pick up if you're coaching something else, if you're doing this or that. I think knowledge within yourself of coaching makes you better at CrossFit as well. So I would say that, I mean, it can assist you in CrossFit, but I do think that it doesn't have to be within CrossFit.
Yeah. It's like even in the 100 Words of Fitness, it says try, learn, and play new sports. It doesn't say get a coach. It doesn't say, receive feedback on any of this. That's kind of like, but it also doesn't say anything about sleep, in the 100 Words of Fitness or in the little thing. Sleep often gets lumped into the nutrition part because it's like, what are you putting into your body type of thing. Yeah. But it doesn't say anything about mental health. It doesn't say anything about your environment, because like now we're getting in the weeds. Like, how many things do you want to add to this before we get away from the most core piece of it? And then everybody starts adding in what's important to them too.
Yeah.
All right, well, James is the big sleep guy, so of course he's going to add that into his personal definition of CrossFit and teach his athletes on that. Miguel is big on intellectual pursuits. So he's going to be like, hey, I'm going to post an article with every workout that I put up, and I'm going to read this excerpt at the end of class to my class, like, because I want my, I feel like that is important for the athletic development. But again, that's not in the definition of CrossFit or any of these other things. That's something you're adding into it. Yeah. I think sometimes like we're at the point now where there's so many coaches and so many people that have been doing it for so long that so many things have been added into it. And people are so biased and they have strong opinions, but they've also seen it work in their own little tiny, barbell club room. Like I know this works because we've done it in our room, but it also may not work at that gym down the road because the culture is different. And culture, community, that's also another thing that's not listed in there, but we know that doing the workouts with another person changes your intensity input and output. If you look at that poster in the barbell club room for moving large loads, functional movements, all those things, right in the middle, it's at number 4. It says community, fitness together. We added that in. I added that in. But it doesn't say anything about that if you read, I think, the level 1 manual. So it's just an interesting thing to kind of think about. And I was wondering, I'm like, there'd be nothing wrong with it. And it's funny how CrossFit will still post just the Metcon, yet a lot of times there's like an EMOM buildup, which is essentially the strength portion of it, if you wanted. There's no right or wrong answer,
Yeah.
but it kind of seems like, why wouldn't you do it if everyone just got stronger? Why wouldn't you do a pull-up program? Every Monday we're working on these pull-ups, and then people actually do get pull-ups. Because, like, let's go back to Rebecca. She got from 0 to 100 kilos on the front squat in 6 months of squatting once a week. Sometimes not even front squatting, just back squatting. Would she have had that? What's the time frame she would front squat 100 if she was only attending CrossFit classes? And if she never got there, let's say her front squat stayed, let's see, what's reasonable. Let's say she's only in the 50s kilos range, right? Like she eventually, 9 months from starting, front squats 115 pounds. I'll switch to pounds now. Then she eventually front squats 120, 12 months later. And then 2 years later, she front squats 135, whatever it may be, just because of the frequency of front squatting coming in.
Yep.
But we're also trying to use that thing where, like, any squat builds your squat, which I don't know if that's true. What's better? And then if that's the rate of progress on that one component, how long is it going to take her to get a pull-up? How long is it going to take her to get handstand push-ups? Is the focus of the program even to get her those movements, or just purely work capacity? Because I bet you her work capacity has definitely gone up, but she can't do any of these things. And at what point is that frustrating to her and she just stops doing CrossFit because I can't do any of the things? Is that a flaw in the programming?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think people appreciate the intentionality. So even if they don't love back squatting, right, and even if they skip, I think people still appreciate the fact that, like, oh, this is a focus. Like, this is something that we're building on during this time. If that's not necessarily my focus, I still have those other days where I can work on my general fitness. But I think having, like, even like a rotating, like, intention of these days are this gets people in that sort of mindset of, like, oh, this is my chance to build it within class. I love the fact that we touch on it, but, like, we've said many times that it takes time outside of class, and it still will. But if you know that you have a specific work on day for something, I think it also pushes you to then, within this time frame, let me see if I can maximize this skill with time outside of class. And maybe now I do focus more on nutrition because I'm thinking, oh yeah, at the end of this cycle, I want to PR my back squat when that single rep is going to come up. So let me be intentional about it and kind of gear up for this thing. But again, like, the other days do exist. So then you can do that general fitness every other time.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes sense, right? There's so many ways to do it. You just front squatted 145, which is a hair above 315 pounds, right?
Yeah, I think it's 319.
319. So you can front squat that weight. You can still do rope climbs. You can still do muscle ups. Really, you can do all those things. It's just the work capacity part of it,
right? Yeah,
that is the challenge. But it's, you could easily come back to CrossFit, and that'll come back like that, and you're like so much more better off, right? Like, would you feel like after doing all this barbell club stuff and the progress you've made in there, you would be better off in your CrossFit training now, and you could take that to the next level?
Yeah, and I was even talking, these are kind of like the conversations I have outside of class too, where, yeah, I'm not doing CrossFit as much. And when I come in and I do a Saturday workout, it really is just the, like, oh, I don't have the cardio anymore. of a CrossFitter. But because of my base in these movements, I know I'll always be able to do these movements. And that is like, well, this is the quote unquote next one that I'm working on. So here are the skills that I need to build this up. And I have a base in pull-ups. So I can then get the toes to bar because I know how to hang and like the muscle ups and this and that. And like those are always there because I know I spent time building up those mechanics. Cardio is just something that I think is like a more consistency thing. I can always kind of, and I'm sure it's different per person, but I can always fall back on technique with a lot of these movements where I know what to do to get a toes to bar. I know what to do to get a muscle up. So I feel like I can always get those because I've spent that time building them up specifically as well.
How long, let's say if you stuck with just CrossFit and you're in the CrossFit program. So now remember your squat had stagnated for a little while.
Right.
Your front squat was 137, 138 for what, a year and a half, 2 years or so. Yeah. And the back squat was also like 137. You know, I think your front squat was a little bit above your back squat for several years. And now, again, kind of like in the same boat as Rebecca, we've been squatting for 6 months, and you've seen your numbers just fly up. Multiple reps, single reps, just the squats going through the roof. And no doubt you feel the strength just in your body, right? Like not even just when you're squatting, but you can probably feel it in other situations. How long, if you never joined Barbell Club, because we've gone through periods in Barbell Club where we're not specializing in squats, like, all right, let's do push presses, let's do complex other things. But now we're really serious on the squats. How long in the general CrossFit programming do you think it would take you to get your back squat and front squat to where it is now? Had you never joined Barbell Club, and let's say your back squat back then was like 205 and your front squat was like 185 or 165, you're just CrossFitter Miguel, do you think you ever get to these numbers in just the Gen Pop programming where your air squat, the wall balls, the lunges, they all feed into Miguel, into your squats? We know now that these weights are within you. You are capable of doing them, which means you've always been capable of doing them. You just needed to have the stimulus provided that you could make an adaptation to get to this level. Do you think that stimulus, even over the long term, would ever have come from just doing CrossFit programming?
I would hate to say like no, but again, I think we were so, because of the stagnation that I had, I think we had to like really focus on, hey, I'm not getting away from these. So in order for me to do them the best way possible week to week, because even, I mean, my intention wasn't necessarily to PR these numbers. It was really just to feel comfortable and secure squatting at higher percentages more often. And that was purely because I couldn't avoid them. Like if they came up once a week or day 4, I could easily just avoid them. Yeah. But the fact that we're doing them so often made it so that I had to figure them out and work with them. Again, if it was just CrossFit, because I mean, I do look at the programming and I have seen back squats come up a good amount, honestly.
But in his last couple weeks.
Yeah, like that's an easy class to just duck though, or just do.
Which is surprising. That's surprising that like that used to be a day that everybody wanted to come in with some back squats.
But you know,
that's wild to me that the back squat's no longer the showstopper. You know,
right? But I mean, if I was still back then, like not where I was now with it, especially because I could avoid it, there's a chance that I would. If it was like, hey, we have multiple opportunities across this time period to like really work on this, I think that makes it a little bit different.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm definitely not hitting the numbers I am now. Maybe I'm
Do you,
back
you
to
think you
those like
you think you break
300s.
300? You think you break
I think
300?
I think I can get back to it, and then I think I'm content there. Like
Yeah,
once I get,
there's a ceiling now
yeah,
because you're like, well, I got muscle ups, handstands. I know I can squat 300. The need to squat more than that isn't there.
right,
Like the need is there in barbell club. Right now you can back squat 165. You back squat 200 kilos. I guarantee your snatch is up. I
right,
guarantee you're definitely snatching 100 at the most micro of minimums, right? Like, but it's definitely more than that. But like, yeah, but so there's a need in barbell club to keep pushing it. There in
right,
CrossFit there wouldn't be a need like it taking your back squat north of 300 if you squat 400. Well, that's not going to help your muscle up per se. Like
yeah,
you just need to get better at those and do strict those. Your overall you are a stronger human being though, a more durable.
yeah,
Like the squat will build up some crazy durability. Like um, you get someone's backing up in a parking lot, they bump you with their car, you're much more well off than if you didn't strength train at all.
right,
You're just what's the whole thing? Strong people are harder to kill.
yeah,
So it's true, huh? Yeah, these are interesting things to think about, and all that said, I am still in the camp of a Metcon a day, blah blah blah, doing all this stuff like the most
mhm,
purest form of CrossFit. Give me the robes, of like what the most like a elite purest form of CrossFit is. That's what I'm wearing. No mayhem, no none of these things. Get those
yeah,
logos off. Like I want to coach, because especially because in my mind the coaching is such a huge component of what CrossFit is and the group
mhm,
training that I wouldn't want to sacrifice it. But I am open though to I do think you need to experiment with programming. I do think that strength and metcon is constantly varied. Those crazier days are part of the prescription or should be, just maybe not all the time, or maybe just not every day. Like I'd be totally
yeah,
open to like once a day. But there were points in our programming where I would just be looking for things for us to do. All right, we're gonna back squat for a heavy 5 on Monday, and then do a 500-meter row. Then on Tuesday, we got to have a strength movement there. All right, let's press. Then let's deadlift. Then let's do snatch. Then let's do clean jerk. And then I'm just like rotating the strength exercises down because there was a point in time where that's all like everyone wanted to lift heavy. That was like the culture in the gym. And if we weren't, it didn't feel like we were doing CrossFit. If we were just going to do one Metcon, right? And that's that the part of the culture in your gym kind of also dictates what CrossFit is. Like the
yeah,
definition changes, right? I think I mentioned this a while ago on the podcast. I saw like a thing about how there's X amount of billion people on the planet, and each individual person is experiencing reality in a different way. And there's no
yeah,
two that are completely alike. So if you ask someone their definition of reality and life, you're going to get like, what I don't know how many billions of people, like 6 billion people, 8 billion people's different responses. Like and that's also their definition of in the moment of how they're feeling. This
yeah,
is because your reality changes like right after we get off this podcast. You can go outside and get rained on, or even now I'm seeing that it's raining. I was going to go to the pool and lay out in the
yeah,
sun later, and now I'm seeing that I can't do that. My reality has changed. My definition of the rest of the day is being changed. That means I'm going to do more cleaning inside the house now. And also I'm wondering how in the world I'm going to get all my steps in, because this is I'm not happy to see the rain coming.
yeah,
But that's, you could be not happy to see that we're back squatting and then deadlifting and then pressing. You might be someone you're like, you know what? I like to only do 20-minute AMRAPs.
yeah,
I don't want to have to think. I don't want complicated movements. I want this just to be simple. I just want to, I want to have CrossFit be the equivalent of going for a long, slow jog every time where I'm just like in my thoughts, But then there's other people who are like, no, I don't want to be in my thoughts at all. I want to be just, like it hurts so bad I can't think about anything else. Those are two different interpretations of life, reality, and CrossFit, and what it should be, and then every coach has their ideas of what it should be, and they add to the methodology, right?
Yeah.
Just like I'm heavily influenced from the Penlay school of thought for weightlifting, but I've added to the methodology because there's got to be some James McDermott on what I'm doing to begin with, right? Which also takes influence from CrossFit and all these other things. Another example there. Lost it. Anyways, it's a fun thing to think about, right?
Yeah.
And it just kind of, I think it's good to be open with all of it. I don't know if that means we'll do a strength program in CrossFit class, although I have noticed they do have some other components to cap that maybe we could start just adding in here and there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Have you looked at any of that stuff?
From time to time, where they're very unrelated to the workout. So we won't do it, but you're like, oh, that would be cool on its own, or as a part of something else. I think before, what I was asking about, even Turkish get-ups a while ago, of I want to feel that again. Yeah.
I'm pro Turkish get-up. I'll add those into Barbell Club for sure. And I wonder too. All right, in Barbell Club, what we're doing, and it's no secret on what the progression is. Anything you can guess what you're going to be lifting the next week and be right within a kilo or two, probably, right? And that probably creates its own anticipation or anxiety, similar to the anxiety of not knowing what's coming up in CrossFit, what's not coming up next week, what's tomorrow's workout. Everyone wants to know what tomorrow's workout is. And I was thinking about this earlier today when I was cleaning. I don't get that Sunday blues or that Sunday anxiety knowing that the work week is coming up and the weekend is ending, because I spend part of my Sunday prepping for the next week. So I know exactly what I'm doing tomorrow on Monday because I already have my checklist. All right, I have a meeting at 3:30. I have to be to the pool at noon. That means I'm walking to the pool at 1:30. Blah, 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 right? I have it all checked. I know what time I'm doing the Barbell Club numbers. And if I want to make tomorrow easier, I'll do it today. I'll do the Barbell Club numbers today. So I know exactly what's coming up. So I'm almost looking forward to diving into that versus oh no, here comes work tomorrow. What am I going to do type of thing. So I don't know. I feel like prepping, or at least having knowledge of the future thing, helps with that. Would you say, is that the same for Barbell Club? And that would help with CrossFit? Because people always want to know, well, they would love to know what the full week of workout is.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that would help people or not.
Yeah, no, I don't. It depends.
Because the thought is that they'll cherry pick more,
different.
Right? They're well, I'm definitely not coming in on those days.
Yeah, there's definitely the cherry picking of it. Yeah, I don't know. It's a little bit different though. The planning ahead versus working out is working out. Even even with these Sundays, I'm here's the focus, but they don't know what the workouts are going to be.
Yeah.
Until that Saturday night when it's on Wodify. So I don't know.
That's always a debate to announce the week or not, and so in Barbell Club, exactly what the programming is going to be for essentially weeks on end.
Yeah.
Does that help in your prep and how you feel before the session? Are you anxious? Anything like that? Or does
I
it put
think
you
a
at
little bit.
ease?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of anxiety there where you because we also have the weeks and weeks of it. We know like how it's been going, how we think it's going to go. All
Yeah.
right, I know that this is my worst day prior because that day of not having barbell club, I know that this is my busiest day outside of. So then my preparation for barbell club the next day is this and that. So I don't know. It's a mix.
And I guess there can be no cherry picking in barbell club. Um,
Right. Right.
because you're just not, you would never get away like if you knew Fran was coming up on Wednesday, you're like, well, I'm not going to do that. So you essentially escape Fran if you just don't come in on that Wednesday, because next Wednesday it's not going to be Fran again. It might be something that you quote want to do. um, my whole thing with cherry picking, again, maybe it's just a time thing. Like in the beginning you're like offended by it, you're like, why would you do this? Like there, the days you don't want to do, you should come in. Those are the days
Yeah.
they're going to make you the best, that whole thing. But now that I'm older, physically, and I have been coaching for a while, I don't care about cherry picking anymore. Like I'm more of like, you are an adult, you're deciding to be here or not. The people that do come in on that day are going to get the benefits of that day. And then maybe you do get a benefit of not coming in that day, but you come in on a day that you actually want to be here, and you put more output on that. Or just, hey, it's your life. This is how you're choosing to interpret it,
Right.
right? Like, I'm not going to be the one that has to play with their grandkids. I'm not going to be the one that has to, walk a half a mile when their car breaks down, unless that situation happens to me. And then how
Mhm.
I've prepped for life now factors into it. However you decide to prep for life, that's up to you, right? Because like, if I'm going to be mad at you for cherry picking a workout, then why am I not equally or more mad at you for not eating the way that I feel you should be eating to get the best out of this programming, to not stretching every night, to be living your entire life like a professional athlete? Like, I should be equally as angry about those things, right?
Right.
Which, you know, when you guys tell me that you haven't eaten for barbell club, yes, I'm furious inside, but that's a whole nother thing. That could be a one-time instance, or you know what, the bar will teach you. Like that's also another thing. I know you can't cheat this for forever,
Yeah.
so it's just a waiting game. Like I know, like Chris will make his jokes, but I know at some point I'll be removed from the equation, and he will be set up with a barbell, and he will care a lot, and he will want to make this lift. And when it doesn't happen, it's because of these things, right? And
Yeah.
it's like, well, hey, now are you ready to do it? Like, when you're ready, the barbell will show you the need, and then if you care enough, you'll eventually you'll just start to do it,
Yeah.
right? Or you'll seek out those resources. So it's like, hey, if you want to be you're an adult, you make these decisions. If I'm on the highway and I'm speeding, if I'm going 1 mile over the speed limit, I'm making a choice as an adult to do this right now, even though it has been strongly advised that I don't.
Right.
I don't know. I think that's I think that's I was trying to think, like, is this a caring and empathetic stance on it, or do to be the most effective coach, do I just need to hold the line and be like, no, you cannot do this, or you should not do this? What do you think?
Mhm. Yeah, that's a deep question of like it really depends. It's very nuanced. You'll get varying responses to it as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Because me saying that I don't care if you cherry pick isn't me saying I don't care about Miguel. I'm just acknowledging that you're an adult and you're going to make decisions,
right.
and I'm
Yeah.
not going to fight you on it. Or like, let's say if I do fight you on it and I give you a lot of shit about it, I may not also be aware of everything else going on in your life.
Yeah.
And then maybe that takes you away from CrossFit. You're like, you know what? I get yelled at work. I get yelled at by my mom and dad. I get yelled at by my girlfriend. My dog barks at me when I leave the house. I don't need this when I come to the gym.
Yeah.
I just want to come to the gym when I want to come to the gym. Is that okay, James? It is. Because when I do have you at the gym, now you're mine, right? And then we can work on these other things. And then you're happy to be doing lateral burpees and snatches over the bar. That's your jam. Is it better to let you just enjoy your jam, or to burn you out mentally and you stop doing CrossFit altogether?
Yeah.
This is another nuanced conversation, right?
Hmm.
Where are you at in your coaching journey with this question?
Well, that's my thing. I just talk to people as much as I can, because I'm with you where I'm like, okay, but you don't want to do this, but then you're not going to get better. But then I'm like, and if you don't want to get better, I guess that's fine. But what do you want when you come here? Like, that's very much where I'm at, where I'm just like, I'm just curious about what everyone gets out of this when they leave and what they want to get. Like, are they matching up what you want to get out of it and what you get out of it? If those things are matching up, then fine. But otherwise, I'm like, I feel like we're missing something, and I just want to figure out what that is for each person. Because you hear things, even as an athlete, as a coach, as just a member, and you're like, okay, but I feel like there's a fix for that. Yeah, it'll take more time, it'll take more attention, but but again, like, you're right. You can't, not everyone responds to you being like, well, you're not getting this because you're not doing this. It's the same thing with barbell club. Like, what motivates each of us, like, before a lift? And yeah, it's very different. And for me, it's just been, okay, what does each person want? And how can I allow them to figure that out themselves?
Yeah.
Like, what conversations can we have where I'm like, oh, well, okay, if I was in that situation, maybe I'd do this or that, or, oh, interesting, you're doing this and you want this, and, maybe you'll get there through this, or you're already on this path, or you're content, and that's awesome. And,
And I think it's completely okay to be content. There's plenty of athletes who are like, James, I'm never getting a muscle up. Like, you keep trying to force this square peg into the round hole.
Yeah.
And I just even the thought of it, of being up there, I don't like. I understand it would make me better, but ultimately, if I just do these other things, I have energy at work. I'm playing with my kids. I'm going to live a longer, happier life. James, you're already accomplishing the mission, but now you're starting to put what you want on me. It's like, well, they're never going to get double unders. It's like, yeah, but do they want double unders?
Exactly. Yeah.
What does double unders mean? And like, that's part of, like, when you get really deep into coaching, and most coaching personalities, you're a professional fixer. Like, if your friends, happen to say they got this problem, the first thing that might pop up into your mind is a way to fix that problem, as opposed to, oh, I'm sorry you feel that way, or I'm sorry you're going through. Like, I have this issue all the time where it's like, I have to, like, make sure my empathetic hat is on a little bit before my coaching hat, to be like, oh, I acknowledge how you feel, and that sucks and whatnot. And like, hey, you know what? If you need any advice or anything, I'm here for you. As opposed to like, well, you should just do this. If you do this, this is what, like, that's because in the moment, like, when we're teaching movement, you're teaching the med ball plane. You see a rounded back, you see a problem, you immediately fix it. Like, you've trained yourself to zero in on a problem and fix it immediately, as quickly as possible, for time, right? Just like you're doing movements for time, you're fixing problems for time. So I've had a lot of issues separating that from, like, general, like, life and stuff like that. Like, when I'm at the pool and one of the old people that are there, they'll, like, say, like, something that's going wrong, I just bite my nope. Like, because also I have to think, do I want to have an hour-long conversation about nutrition right now? unpaid? Do I want to show up at their house and go through their fridge or any other thing? No, just nod and listen.
Yeah.
Nod and listen. They know you work at a gym. If they really wanted your help, they would ask for it, right? Or maybe eventually when they get to know you. So do you find that you have this issue when you're with friends and family, that like a problem presents itself, and maybe even if you don't say it right now, it pops up, the thing pops up in your head. Well, if you just did this every Sunday, you'd be fine. Like,
No, I'm more of a, I think the way I've gotten through it is just become a question asker.
and that's
Because
the better
eventually-
approach.
Yeah, I think everyone knows that. I think that's always been my approach of like, most things are intentional, and I find it hard to believe that people don't know what they're doing. So if you ask enough questions, people either walk right into the answer of whatever that is, because it's like, I also only have my experiences, so I can give you advice, but that's kind of based on me. Whereas if you are now answering these questions that I'm asking that could be related to what you're saying, then you will eventually stumble upon whatever answer is best for you.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Because again, going back to, you are two individuals experiencing life and reality in completely different ways in every single moment that happens throughout the day. So for you to be like, well, yeah, you just gotta, as soon as you wake up, pop open your phone and do your language lesson and whatnot, because that works for me. And they're like, that's not going to work for them.
Yeah.
That's just a solution that you've already started to use for yourself. And that's one that you've been very, very consistent with. So it's going to be at the forefront of your mind.
Yeah.
Like there's so many things I could just just regurgitate on, like, well, if you ate this way and blah, blah, blah. But then there's so many times in my life that I don't eat that way. Yeah. I just know it works. I just know it's a tool that can fix this problem you're saying. And that's why asking another question is a better route, because then you can almost have them start to figure out what led them to that path to begin with, and what would they want to do to fix it, and then you could even be like, well, hey, why don't you eat breakfast in the morning? And then they tell you why. And then you're like, well, how do you think you could fix it? Or how do you think you could start to change things? And then they tell you their plan. And then maybe once you have that information, you can start to be like, well, what my advice would be, if I'm going to give you any, is like, do exactly that, but do the bare minimum of it and just gain consistency. Like, they're like, oh, I'm going to make a big breakfast. It's like, maybe just having breakfast is the first goal. It doesn't have, and that could mean having a yogurt. It could mean making a whole spread of bacon and eggs and fruit and whatnot. You could start to help them better that way. Or even like, well, hey, why are you doing the lift this way, today? Like, or Haley on Wednesday, she was leading with the hips on her pull. And I was like, your start position looks different every time. Do you feel that? She's like, no, it feels exactly the same. But when I'm set up, but when I'm doing the movement, it feels off. It feels weird. So it's like, just like having a conversation where you're letting that person give you the information, or at least start to think about it. Because like, I may not have even, like I told Haley, like, well, when you pull, just try to keep your hips down, lead with the shoulders more. All right, there's the coaching and the cueing and the stuff like that. But also I'm banking on, like, when she goes to sit down, she's like thinking about it. Yeah. All right, well, that's what he said. Here's how I interpreted it. Here's how I actually think I'm making, like, if I'm going through it in my head, what did I do the last two? And then she'll figure it out, because, like, she knows how to snatch, and she's had this issue before. Like, she's going to figure it out, right? I'm not going to insult her intelligence and be like, well, you see, when you snatch, you need to have your hips here and the knee is below the hip and blah, blah. It's like, she knows all that, she's taken the level one. She just has to figure out and think through the problem right now. So, like, I can give her the general advice. I can tell her that what I'm seeing, She notes that it's also feeling weird and not consistent. And then we move on from there, and that's like with everything. You can just approach it that way. So, and I think that's one of Chuck Carswell's sayings. Always ask another question or something like that. He's big on like, well, why do you feel that way? Well, why'd you do it that way? Or why do you put your feet there? If I was the times that I've like coached at other gyms, I often approach a lot of the situations on like, hey, I noticed that your hands are really close together when you do pull-ups. Why do you do it that way? And they're like, I don't know. No one ever told me to do it another way. Okay, cool. Well, hey, do you want to try just having them be shoulder width apart? Let's try that out. And they're like, oh, I can feel my kip more or something like that. It's like,
right.
Instead of being like coming right and be like, hey, you're doing it wrong. Your hands are too close together. Take them wider. Although in the moment, if I'm teaching a group, I might be like, hey, Miguel, take your hands an inch wider to the left and right on this next set. Cool. But then I might follow up with you and be like, hey, how did that feel? And well, why do you take your hands in narrower? And like, you're like, oh, I never even think about it. I'm like, oh, well, maybe we should. So it's just a different way to kind of approach the whole thing. And you can do that anywhere and everywhere, in your life. You're at the 4th of July party and your aunt is complaining about something. And instead of you just jumping in there on how to fix it, you can like, if you wanted to engage to begin with, you could start to approach it that way,
Yeah.
All fun things to think about. And then use data. I made a little note here for myself. Like in the barbell club, we use data. Like we can look at the end of the training cycle and see what your sleep ratings were, what your nutrition ratings were, and be like, so now it's like, it's more than me just saying, Miguel, I don't think you're eating enough food for the training we're doing. It's like, well, look, you always give a 2 on nutrition. Your average is down. Like there's clear room to go up. And that, I think having data, it really helps with people who are like motivated by seeing the numbers and stuff. But even the people who don't, it might just open their eyes a little bit. Are you a data person or just or not?
Yeah, I think I'm one of the people that like data helps. It helps to see it, but yeah, because I kind of gamify it, right? Where it's like I'm always trying to, if there is a scale, I'd like to be towards the higher end. But it is a feel thing. I think data is just a better way to quantify feel, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And it helps with the conversation, like, hey, I have long-term data. When I call Shaf or I call Alex or someone and we're talking about the last training cycle and what things we want to improve upon, it's not just me hounding you all the time or nagging you about eating more food or doing this or doing that. It's like, look, I have evidence. I have data. And not only do I have data, it's data that you provided to me, right? I wouldn't have it if you didn't tell me. So, you've known you've had this problem of not eating enough food. You've been rating it that way. Look, I'm presenting you with your own work. Like, look, you had a 6. You gave your nutrition a 1 every single Monday or something like that. And that saves it, I think, maybe from being an argument or accusatory to like, hey, look, we have data to go off of. Let's fix this. And look at how much room we have to go up too. Because like, all right, you could have gotten like a 35 score for your nutrition, but we have a 15. Look at all that room on the table that we can maximize on. So having data helps when you can. Asking people for it. Cool. Well, fun talk. We've covered a lot of different topics, a lot of philosophy today, a lot of things to think about, but important things to kind of think about as well. By the way, I did take that route you told me to the Sakati Center. I discovered I can actually see the Sakati Center from my window. I never realized that like pink roof that's off in the distance. I'm like, oh, that's Sakati Center. If I just walk that direction, it'll take me there. So I've been going the crossings route, and it's it costs me only 300 to 500 steps compared to going the long way, but there's a lot less car activity.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I will take it. It's way better route. And it's just straight. I just walk straight and I arrive at the Scotty Center. It's the most awesome thing. So thank you for pointing that out. That probably would have taken me a lot longer to figure out, because I never until someone would have said there's a way to get to the crossings there, which I know several people have told me that. It just has never registered, even though I've seen it before. That's the thing.
Right.
Like, I've ran over there and I'm like, I know it's there. Like, it just didn't. I've never actually crossed the threshold.
Yeah.
So it didn't seem real until I walked, and like, it felt like I was walking into another world. I'm like, wow, all right, I'm in the Sakati Center now. Boy, the house is nice over there, Miguel. Every time I'm like, this is where the rich people live in, right here. On that one street, West Hartstone, Miguel. They're all over there.
Yeah.
There are, at least that I've noticed, 3 private in-ground pools over there. Can't use any of those, but I know they're there. So awesome. Miguel, any other thoughts on anything that we've talked about?
No. Yeah, we went into them a lot. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, we did a nice deep dive. Cool. Well, where can people follow you?
On Instagram at Couldn't Be Miguel.
Couldn't Be Miguel. Follow me, James A. McDermott. Follow the Barbell Strikes Back, Albany CrossFit, Albany CrossFit Barbell Club. Next week, we're maxing out hang lifts and full lifts. So a lot more PR videos going to be coming. A lot of dinosaurs floating around. So we'll have more to report on next week. Cool. Well, Miguel, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
Stream. I don't know if it clicked. My internet's being, I think because of the storm, really weird. It's not ending. Oh, wait, I think. I know I clicked the button. I saw the button highlight. It's just, it always takes a second. What is happening? Oh, no, okay. That was just to get to the drop-down box to end the stream.